Dog cornered by jaguar. And what happened next shocked people. Dr. Emma Richardson had been working at the Amazon Wildlife Conservation Center in northern Brazil for 8 years, and she'd never seen anything like what was happening in Enclosure 7. The center, funded partially by Australian conservation groups, housed rescued big cats that couldn't be released back into the wild, animals injured by poachers, orphaned cubs, cats rescued from illegal trade. Enclosure 7 belonged to Luna, a 6-year-old female jaguar. She'd come to the center as a cub after her mother was killed by cattle ranchers. Luna had been raised by humans, making her too habituated for release, but she was healthy, magnificent, and as dangerous as any wild jaguar despite her gentle history with staff. The problem started when Emma arrived for morning rounds and found something impossible. A dog inside Luna's enclosure. Not just any dog. A small, golden-colored mixed breed, maybe 8 kilos at most, cowering against the far wall of the enclosure. And Luna, all 70 kilos of apex predator, stalking toward it with the focused intensity of a hunter. Oh, God. Oh, no. Emma's hands shook as she grabbed her radio. Code red in Enclosure 7. We have a breach. There's a dog inside with Luna. Her assistant, Paulo, a Brazilian wildlife veterinarian, came running from the medical building. A dog. How the hell did a dog get in there? They stood outside the enclosure fence, watching in horror as Luna moved closer to the terrified dog. The jaguar's movements were deliberate, controlled, the stalk of a predator who knew the kill was inevitable. We need to get Luna into the holding area, now! Emma fumbled with the control panel that operated the sliding gates between sections of the enclosure. If we activate it, she might spook and attack immediately. Paulo's voice was tight with tension. The sound, the movement, it could trigger her prey drive. If we don't, that dog is dead anyway. Emma pressed the button. The mechanical sound of the gate opening echoed through the enclosure. Luna's ears flicked back, acknowledging the sound, but she didn't stop moving toward the dog. Her yellow eyes were locked on her prey, her powerful muscles rippling under her spotted coat. The dog, Emma could see now it was female, probably a young adult, was pressed so hard against the wall she seemed to be trying to disappear into it. Her tail was tucked tight, her ears flat against her head, her whole body trembling. She made no sound, as if understanding that any noise might trigger the attack. Come on, Luna, come on, girl. Go to the holding area. There's food in there, remember? Luna had been trained to shift between enclosure sections using food rewards. But right now, with prey 3 meters away, training meant nothing. She was operating on pure instinct. Emma made a decision that would probably get her fired but might save the dog's life. She climbed the service ladder attached to the enclosure fence. Emma, don't! Paulo grabbed her leg. If you go in there... I'm not going in, just high enough to distract her. Emma climbed to the top of the 4-meter fence and started making noise, whistling, calling Luna's name. The jaguar paused, turning her massive head to look at Emma. For a moment, their eyes met, and Emma saw the conflict there. The familiar human voice versus the unfamiliar prey animal. Luna made her choice. She turned back to the dog. No! Emma's scream was desperate. Luna, no! The jaguar launched herself forward in that explosive burst of speed big cats are famous for. The dog had nowhere to go, no chance of escape. Emma closed her eyes, unable to watch what came next, but the killing bite never came. Emma opened her eyes to see Luna standing over the dog, who'd rolled onto her back in the ultimate submission posture. The jaguar lowered her head, sniffing the dog thoroughly, and then did something that made Emma's breath catch. Luna licked the dog's face. Not a bite, not even a threatening gesture. A gentle, almost curious lick. The kind a cat gives to something it's investigating rather than hunting. What the... Paulo's voice was barely a whisper. The dog, still on her back, trembling violently, did something equally unexpected. She reached up with one paw and touched Luna's face. Not swatting, not defensive, just a gentle touch, almost like a greeting. Luna sat down, just sat, right there beside the dog, her tail swishing slightly, head tilted to one side. She looked confused, as if trying to work out why this small animal smelled wrong, acted wrong, was wrong in some fundamental way that her predator brain couldn't process. "She's not attacking." Emma's voice was filled with wonder. "Paolo, she's not attacking. Why not? She should be. That dog's the perfect size for prey. Luna's killed animals that size before. We've seen her with enrichment prey." The dog slowly rolled back onto her feet, still low to the ground, still submissive. Luna watched, but didn't move. Then the dog did something that seemed suicidal. She approached Luna, belly dragging on the ground, tail tucked but wagging slightly, in the appeasement behavior dogs use with larger, dominant animals. "No, don't. Stay still." Emma's whisper was desperate, though the dog couldn't hear her, but Luna didn't attack. Instead, she lowered her own head, bringing her face level with the dog's, and they touched noses. The classic animal greeting, predator and prey, making contact in a way that defied every natural law. "I need to get that dog out." Emma started down the ladder. "Keep Luna's attention on you. Talk to her. Use her name. Anything. Emma, if you go in there..." That dog trusted her. "Don't ask me how I know, but I know. She trusted Luna not to kill her. The least I can do is trust my own animal." Emma knew she was being irrational. Luna was a jaguar, not a house cat. She'd been socialized to humans, yes, but she was still a wild animal with wild instincts. Going into that enclosure was against every protocol, every safety rule. But that dog was alive against all odds. And Emma had maybe a 5-minute window before Luna's hunting instinct reasserted itself. She opened the service gate and stepped into the enclosure. Emma's heart hammered as she entered Luna's territory. Every cell in her body screamed that this was wrong, suicidal, insane. But she kept her movements slow and steady, her voice calm. "Luna, good girl, that's my beautiful girl." The jaguar's head swung toward Emma, recognition in her amber eyes. Luna had known Emma since cubhood, had been hand-raised partially by her, but wild instincts could override familiarity in a heartbeat. The dog remained frozen, pressed against the wall again, watching Emma approach. Up close, Emma could see the dog was in rough shape, underweight, coat matted and dirty, a fresh cut above one eye. She'd clearly been surviving on her own for some time. "It's okay, sweetheart. Nobody's going to hurt you." Emma crouched down, making herself smaller, less threatening. Luna watched with what looked like curiosity rather than aggression. The jaguar sat back on her haunches, tail swishing, head cocked to one side. "Polo, I need a catch pole and the transfer crate." Now, through the fence, Polo was already moving, grabbing equipment. Emma stayed crouched between the dog and Luna, her body language calm despite her racing pulse. She'd worked with Luna for 8 years, had seen her playful, had seen her aggressive, had learned to read the subtle signs of her moods. Right now, Luna looked puzzled. Not hunting, not playing, just confused. "What is it about this dog?" Emma murmured. "What makes you different, little one?" The dog whimpered softly, and Luna's ears pricked forward at the sound. She stood, took a step closer, and Emma held her breath. But Luna simply sniffed the dog again, that same thorough investigation, as if trying to solve a puzzle her predator brain couldn't work out. Paolo appeared at the service gate with the equipment. He tossed the catch pole to Emma, who slowly, carefully slipped the loop over the dog's head. The dog didn't resist, just stood trembling as Emma secured her. "Easy now. Let's get you out of here." As Emma started backing toward the gate with the dog, Luna followed. Not stalking, not hunting, following like a curious cat tracking something interesting. Emma's mouth went dry. "Luna, stay. Good girl, stay." Luna actually sat, on command, while Emma backed out of the enclosure with the dog. The moment they cleared the gate, Paolo slammed it shut and Emma collapsed against the fence, adrenaline crash hitting her like a truck. That was the stupidest, most reckless thing I've ever seen you do. Paolo's hands shook as he helped Emma carry the dog to the veterinary clinic, but it worked. How the hell did it work? I don't know. Luna should have killed her, should have killed both of us. In the clinic, Emma examined the dog while Paolo kept watch on the security monitors showing Luna's enclosure. The jaguar was pacing now, agitated, making low calling sounds. "She's looking for the dog." Paolo's voice was filled with disbelief. "Emma, Luna's actually looking for her." Emma focused on her patient. The dog was maybe 2 years old, a mixed breed with some Labrador, some local Brazilian street dog genetics. Severely underweight, but no major injuries besides the cut over her eye. No collar, no microchip. Probably a street dog who'd wandered into the conservation center grounds. But how had she gotten into Luna's enclosure? The fences were 4 meters high, topped with inward curving barriers, specifically designed to keep big cats in and other animals out. "Check the security footage. We need to know how she got in there." While Paolo reviewed the recordings, Emma cleaned the dog's wounds. The little dog was remarkably calm now, as if understanding she was safe. She licked Emma's hand and wagged her tail tentatively. "Found it." Paolo's voice was strange. "Emma, you need to see this." The security footage from overnight showed something extraordinary. The dog had appeared at the outer fence around 11 p.m., digging frantically at the base. The perimeter fence, meant to keep predators and people out, had a weak point, a drainage channel that had eroded the ground beneath. The dog had squeezed through a gap, barely large enough for her small body, but that only got her into the grounds. To reach Luna's enclosure, she'd had to cross 50 meters of open space, past 3 other big cat enclosures. The footage showed her doing exactly that, trotting with purpose directly to enclosure 7. She went straight to Luna. Didn't hesitate, didn't explore. Straight there. Then came the truly inexplicable part. The dog had squeezed through a gap in the enclosure fence, a section where heavy rains had caused the ground to shift slightly, creating a space just large enough for a small dog. Security should have caught it during inspections, but somehow it had been missed. Once inside, the dog had curled up in the corner and gone to sleep. Just gone to sleep in a jaguar's enclosure. She wanted to be in there. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "That's not seeking shelter or food. She specifically chose Luna's enclosure. Why would any animal willingly enter a predator's territory?" Emma had no answer. She continued examining the dog and found something that made her freeze. On the dog's left flank, barely visible under the matted fur, was a scar, a distinctive pattern, 4 parallel lines, claw marks. Old ones, healed over, probably months old. The spacing, the depth, these weren't from another dog or a small predator. These were from something big, something with retractable claws. Something like a jaguar. Paolo. This dog's been attacked by a big cat before, and she survived. Emma's mind raced. Jaguar attacks on dogs were rare but not unheard of, especially in areas where the cat's territory overlapped with human settlements. But surviving such an attack was unusual, and seeking out another jaguar afterward. That defied all logic. Unless we need to check Luna's history. When she was first rescued, where exactly did it happen? Paolo pulled up Luna's file. Emma read through the intake notes from 8 years ago. Luna had been found as a 6-month-old cub in the state of Amazonas, near a small village called São Pedro. Her mother had been killed by ranchers after allegedly attacking livestock. Luna had been hiding in dense brush near a homestead, starving and alone. The report mentioned something else. There'd been a dog at that homestead, a mixed-breed female who'd been injured during the confrontation with the mother jaguar. The locals had thought the dog would die from her wounds, but she'd survived. The report noted it in passing, as context for how aggressive the mother jaguar had been. Emma felt chills run down her spine. What are the chances? No way! Paolo looked at her like she was mad. You're not suggesting... 8 years ago, same region, a young female dog injured by a jaguar, and now a young female dog with jaguar claw scars deliberately entering Luna's enclosure. Paolo, what if it's the same dog? That's impossible. The distances involved, the time passed, the sheer unlikelihood. But Emma was already pulling up maps, calculating. San Pedro was roughly 300 kilometers from the conservation center, an impossible distance for a dog to travel. Except street dogs in Brazil were known to have massive territories, and 300 kilometers over 8 years wasn't impossible. Unlikely, yes, but not impossible. We need to contact the people at San Pedro. Find out if they remember the dog, if she disappeared, when. Paolo made the calls while Emma stayed with the dog, who'd fallen asleep on the examination table, exhausted. Luna's calls echoed through the center, growing more distressed. The jaguar was pacing, agitated, displaying behavior Emma had never seen from her before. She's grieving. Paolo stood at the window, watching the monitors. Luna's acting like she's lost something important. 2 hours later, Paolo got a call back from a woman in San Pedro named Carmela Rodriguez. She remembered the incident vividly. It had been traumatic for the whole village. The jaguar killed 3 of their goats. When the rancher went to protect his livestock, the jaguar attacked. His dog, a little yellow mongrel named Mila, tried to defend him and got badly hurt. The rancher shot the jaguar, killed her. They found the cub later, brought her to your center, and Mila, they thought she'd die, but she recovered. Stubborn little thing. What happened to Mila after that? She stayed with the rancher for a while, but she was never the same. Skittish, nervous, would disappear for days at a time. Then about a year ago, she left and never came back. We figured a caiman got her or another jaguar. That's just how it is out here. Emma felt her throat tighten. A year ago. Plenty of time for a determined dog to travel 300 kilometers, especially if she'd been searching for something. Can you describe Mila? Physical markings, size, small, maybe 8 or 9 kilos, golden yellow color, floppy ears. She had a notch in her right ear from a fight with another dog when she was young. And the scars on her side from the jaguar, they never fully disappeared. Emma looked at the sleeping dog on her table, small, golden yellow, floppy ears. She gently checked the right ear. There was a notch, exactly as described. Carmela, I think Mila's here, at the conservation center, and I think she came looking for Luna. The silence on the other end was long. That's not possible. How would she even know where to go? Emma had no answer that made scientific sense, but she'd worked with animals long enough to know they were capable of extraordinary things. Homing instincts that defied explanation, bonds that transcended logic, dogs who traveled hundreds of kilometers to find deceased owners, elephants who mourned their dead. Why not a dog who remembered a jaguar cub she'd encountered during the worst day of both their lives? I need to try something. It might be crazy, but I need to try. Emma. No. Paolo knew exactly what she was thinking. You can't put them together again. It's too dangerous. Luna's distressed. Mila's distressed. They both calmed down when they were together. What if they need each other? What you're suggesting violates every safety protocol we have. If Luna attacks... She had the chance. She didn't take it. Paolo, I've worked with Luna since she was 6 months old. I've never seen her react to another animal the way she reacted to Mila. There's something here we don't understand. Emma called the center director, Dr. Marcus Chen, who was in Manaus for a conference. She explained the situation, knowing how insane it sounded. Marcus was silent for a long time. You're telling me you think this dog traveled 300 kilometers to find a jaguar she encountered once, 8 years ago, when they were both young. I know how it sounds, but the scars match. The timing matches, the behavior matches. And Marcus, Luna's behavior is unprecedented. She's not treating Mila like prey. She's treating her like pack. Jaguars are solitary animals. They don't form packs. Luna was raised by humans. She was bottle-fed, socialized. She's not a typical jaguar. And Mila was there when Luna's mother died, when Luna was orphaned. What if they imprinted on each other somehow? What if Luna remembers? Another long silence. I'm coming back. Don't do anything until I get there. And Emma, if you're wrong about this, if Luna attacks that dog, the center will face massive liability issues, not to mention the welfare concerns for both animals. I understand, but Emma wasn't sure she could wait. Luna's distress was escalating, and Mila was whimpering in her sleep, clearly having nightmares. Emma made a decision that would probably end her career. She prepared one of the center's observation rooms, a space with reinforced glass where researchers could safely watch animal behavior. Then she set up cameras at every angle. If she was going to do this, she'd document everything. You're really doing this. Paolo's voice held resignation rather than surprise. You're going to put them together. Under controlled conditions, observation room, multiple escape routes, tranquilizer guns ready. First sign of aggression, we separate them immediately. And if Luna kills her, then I was wrong and I'll live with that. But Paolo, what if I'm right? What if these two have a bond we don't understand? What if we're keeping them apart when they need each other? They moved Luna to the observation room first, using food rewards. The jaguar entered willingly, sniffing around the new space. Then Emma carried Mila. The dog was awake now, alert, her body tense. Last chance to back out? Paolo stood by with the tranquilizer rifle. Emma opened the door to the observation room and set Mila down just inside. The dog stood frozen, staring at Luna. Luna's head whipped around at the sound, her body going taut. For a moment, predator and prey faced each other across 3 meters of space. Emma held her breath, finger hovering over the button that would trigger the emergency separation protocol. Then Luna made a sound Emma had only heard once before, years ago when Luna was sick and Emma had stayed with her through the night. A soft, trilling chirp, the sound jaguars use for friendly contact, usually between mothers and cubs. Mila's tail started wagging, not the submissive, fearful wag from before, but the full-body wiggle of a dog greeting someone she loved. She ran to Luna. Emma's heart stopped as the dog bounded across the room directly at the jaguar. This was it. Luna would strike, would kill, and Emma would have made the worst mistake of her career. But Luna dropped into a playbow, an actual playbow, the universal mammal signal for, let's play, I'm friendly. Then she rolled onto her back, exposing her vulnerable belly to the dog, the ultimate sign of trust from a predator. Mila jumped on Luna, licking her face, her paws, her ears. The jaguar rumbled not a growl but a purr. Jaguars can't purr like small cats, but they make a sound called a chuff, a friendly greeting. Luna was chuffing at Mila, her massive paws gently batting at the dog without claws extended. They were playing. A jaguar and a dog were playing like littermates. Emma stood frozen, watching through the reinforced glass as a 70-kilo apex predator and an 8-kilo street dog romped together. Paolo was filming everything, his hands shaking. This is going to change everything we know about jaguar behavior, about animal memory and bonding. Emma, do you understand what we're seeing? Emma understood. She was watching something that shouldn't exist, a bond formed in trauma 8 years ago, maintained through separation and impossible odds, strong enough to override millions of years of predator-prey evolution. After 20 minutes of play, both animals were exhausted. Luna settled down on her side, and Mila curled up against the jaguar's belly, tucking herself under Luna's massive paw. Luna curved her body around the dog protectively and began grooming her, her rough tongue cleaning Mila's matted fur with surprising gentleness. They're bonded. Paolo's voice was filled with wonder. Actually, genuinely bonded, like mother and cub, or littermates, or I don't even know what to call this. Dr. Marcus Chen arrived 6 hours later, rushing straight from the airport. Emma met him at the observation room, where Luna and Mila were sleeping peacefully together, the jaguars breathing synchronized with the dogs. Marcus stood at the glass for a full 5 minutes without speaking. Finally, he turned to Emma. "Show me everything, all the footage, all the records, everything." They spent the next 3 hours reviewing video and documentation, the security footage of Mila's determined journey into the enclosure, the medical records showing her old scars, matching the timeline of Luna's rescue, the contact information from Sao Pedro confirming Mila's identity, the play behavior, the mutual grooming, the complete lack of predatory response from Luna. This is unprecedented. Marcus kept replaying the footage of their reunion. "I've never seen anything like it in 30 years of wildlife research. A jaguar treating a dog as a companion, as family. And the dog traveled hundreds of kilometers to find her. How is that even possible? I think they imprinted on each other during the trauma." Emma had been researching all afternoon. Both were young. Luna was 6 months old. Mila was probably less than a year. They were both traumatized by the death of Luna's mother. Mila was injured protecting her owner from the mother jaguar. Luna was orphaned. They were both victims of the same violent incident. And you think that created a bond strong enough to last 8 years and 300 kilometers? I think Mila spent 8 years trying to find Luna. Street dogs have massive territories. She would have followed Luna's scent trail to the truck that transported her, to the roads leading here. It would have taken time, but she's determined. And when she finally found this place, she knew Luna was here. Could smell her, probably, so she found a way in. Marcus sat down heavily, running his hands through his hair. The implications of this are massive. If jaguars can form these kinds of bonds with other species, if they can remember and seek out individuals after years of separation. Emma, this changes how we think about big cat cognition, about their emotional capacity. What do we do with them? They clearly want to be together. Separating them now would be cruel. It would also be dangerous to keep them together. What if Luna's predatory instinct kicks in? What if Mila gets hurt? With respect, Marcus, Luna's had multiple opportunities to hurt Mila. She hasn't taken any of them. This isn't a temporary curiosity. This is a real bond. Over the next 2 weeks, Luna and Mila remained together under careful supervision. Emma and Paulo documented everything, their sleep patterns, their play behavior, their communication. Luna was gentler with Mila than she'd ever been with enrichment toys or staff members. Mila was completely comfortable with Luna, showing none of the fear she displayed around unfamiliar humans. The story leaked to the media, as such things always do. News outlets worldwide picked it up. Jaguar and dog reunited after 8 years. Scientists from around the globe contacted the center, wanting to study this unprecedented relationship. Animal behaviorists debated whether it was genuine bonding or a fluke of Luna's unusual upbringing, but Emma knew what she was seeing. She'd worked with enough animals to recognize love when she saw it, regardless of species. The center's board met to discuss the situation. The consensus was clear. Mila and Luna could remain together, but in a modified enclosure with multiple separation points under constant monitoring. If any signs of aggression appeared, they'd be separated immediately. Mila would receive regular veterinary care, proper nutrition, and the chance to socialize with other dogs if she chose. She never chose. Mila was content with her jaguar. 3 months after their reunion, Emma watched Luna and Mila in their enclosure during feeding time. Luna ate her meat while Mila ate her dog food, sitting side by side like an old married couple. Visitors to the center stood at the viewing platform, amazed by the sight of a jaguar and dog living together peacefully. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, tugged her mother's sleeve. "Mummy, why don't they hurt each other? Jaguars eat dogs, don't they? The mother struggled for an answer. Emma stepped forward. Usually, yes. But these two are special. They're family. And sometimes family is more important than instinct. The girl seemed satisfied with this answer. Emma wished it was that simple. Carmela Rodriguez visited from Sao Pedro 6 months after the reunion. She wanted to see Mila, the dog she'd thought was dead. When she saw Mila curled up beside Luna, both sleeping in a patch of sunlight, tears streamed down her weathered face. I never thought I'd see her again, never thought she'd survived out there alone. And to find out she was looking for Luna all this time, it's like something from a fairy tale, more like a miracle. Emma stood beside her. The odds against this were astronomical, but somehow it happened. Do you think they remember that day? When Luna's mother died, Emma watched the sleeping pair, Luna's paw draped protectively over Mila's back. I think they remember each other. That's enough. A year after the reunion, Emma published a paper detailing Luna and Mila's relationship. It was peer-reviewed, scrutinized, debated. Some scientists remained skeptical, attributing Luna's behavior to her unusual upbringing rather than genuine cross-species bonding. Others saw it as groundbreaking evidence of animal emotional complexity. Emma didn't care about the debates. She cared about the two animals sleeping peacefully in Enclosure 7, who'd beaten impossible odds to find each other again. She often thought about that morning when she'd found Mila cornered by Luna. How certain she'd been that she was about to witness a tragedy. How wrong she'd been. What had shocked people wasn't the expected violence, but the unexpected love. A jaguar who refused to kill, and a dog who refused to fear. Two survivors of shared trauma who'd found their way back to each other despite time, distance, and nature itself saying it was impossible. Mila lived at the center for another 6 years. Healthy and content with her jaguar. When she finally passed away from old age, Luna grieved for weeks, calling for her companion, searching the enclosure. Emma stayed with Luna during those dark days, watching the jaguar mourn the loss of her unlikely friend. They buried Mila on the center grounds, under a tree that overlooked Luna's enclosure. Luna would often lie at the fence nearest the burial site, as if keeping watch over her friend one last time. The story of Luna and Mila became legend in wildlife conservation circles, a reminder that animals were capable of far more emotional depth than humans often credited them with, that bonds could transcend species, time, and distance, that love, in whatever form it took, was one of nature's most powerful forces. Emma never forgot that moment when she'd opened the enclosure gate, terrified of what she'd find. Never forgot the shock of seeing Luna lick Mila's face instead of delivering a killing bite. Never forgot the lesson those two taught her about the extraordinary capacity of animals to love, remember, and forgive. Sometimes the most shocking thing about nature isn't its brutality, but its grace. And sometimes, against all odds and all logic, a dog and a jaguar can be family. That's what happened when Mila was cornered by Luna. Not a tragedy, but a reunion. Not an ending, but a beginning. Not what anyone expected, but exactly what both of them needed. It shocked people because it reminded them that in a world often defined by violence and survival, there was still room for something gentle, something beautiful, something that looked like hope.